Welcome back to another episode of Straight Facts. The deadline has passed. The transfer window shut. The Premier League, it doesn't really feel like it's returning, and it's been on all week. I'm joined on a Friday edition of the Straight Fact Show by Jessica Black as usual. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready for this game. I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be, I don't know, I think it's going to have levels of like Chelsea, Tottenham, a little bit of that edge to it. I think both teams are going to be chomping at the bit to get those 3 points. Can't wait. It's going
Yeah,
to be maximum toxicity.
yeah. No, I think I think it's gonna be one of the best Man United Arsenal games in a long time. And of course, we'll get onto that a little bit later in the show. Viewers, make sure like buttons are being smashed. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. Really important to us that you get that done.
Do you guys notice anything different about Terry? Do you guys notice it? Do you see it? If you see it, say something.
What in the comments?
Yeah.
What the hair?
Yeah, look
The,
at
the
look at
hair.
his hair. Doesn't it look good, y'all?
It's getting there slowly.
It looks good. Remember when Terry was bald? Yes, we're growing.
Yeah, it's getting
Growth.
there. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there. Um, the,
Terry is glowing.
the trim's looking good. The trim's looking all right. I mean, I'm liking the trim. So yeah, I can't complain. Trim's looking good. Confident with it. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. So yeah, loads going on. Man United are playing, winning games again. Arsenal on top of the league. It's just like the last time I had hair. Like Arsenal were good and Man United were winning. Like it's been a long time since the teams have been there. But lots to delve into today, people. We're obviously going to be speaking about the transfer deadline day. What does it mean? Should these players that Chelsea signed lead to a title charge? Antonio Conte. I know Spurs fans are playing it down, but Conte is kind of slammed their window. But the way he spoke today, Antonio Conte, I'm like, he ain't happy, really. He's like, I'm happy with what I've got, but it's nowhere near good enough, and we need a lot more. So I'm intrigued to see what people think and feel about that. We are going to, of course, preview between Jess and I the Man United versus Arsenal, and a lot surrounding Arsenal today because obviously Edu out trending last night. Thomas Partey injured, El Neni out for months, according to Mikel Arteta. And yeah, there's suddenly the first real bit of jeopardy this season for Arsenal to kind of navigate and everything else. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and we'll come on to Arsenal a little bit later in the show, no doubt. But I wanted to start with Antonio Conte because I kind of got cooked on here by you lot, right? The Football Terrace community. I kind of got cooked for saying that, and I want to make sure I say this in the right way, for saying that Tottenham had an overrated window. Everybody said, Terry, you're hating. You can't really mean this, Terry. Is it really been that bad? And now Conte comes out, and I want to actually get. Can you pass my phone? It's over there. Thank you. I actually want to get his quote right as well. I want to get the quote spot on, by the way, because I don't want to get this wrong. But this is what he said today. He said the tweet here says Tottenham manager Conte sober at Spurs is just sober at the window, sobering. Saying they did what the club could, but there is still too much distance to the top Premier League teams. He added, for this reason, we have to know that we've just started this process to try and improve the squad. Conte is not enthused about the short-term prospects of Spence, Hill, and Sarr. He said that Jed was an investment of the club. He's a perfect prospect for Tottenham, but for sure, if we want to win, we need other signings. I want to be very clear about that. For me, that's not a good sign that your manager is almost, he won't acknowledge Jed Spence as a Antonio Conte signing.
I love that. I love that. Like, there's just, first of all, I thought Spurs fans completely overblew the whole Spence thing, and like he was the best thing since sliced bread. Like he actually wasn't. Like, and Conte never really wanted him. So, and that was clear. He's not a Conte signing, and yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I think I follow a couple of Spurs fans, and I do think that there was a feeling at the end of the window that they probably felt like they should have done more, or they were promised
Yeah.
something different. Um, and there's one Spurs fan that I follow, and I like what she tweets because she keeps it 100. and I won't say who it is, but she always keeps it 100 no matter how good or how bad they're doing. And she was saying that this is not the window that they were promised back in the window, like they or
Yep.
back in the summer. They were supposed to be having a summer like no other. And that's not what it was. And just because you buy a lot of players and you spend quite a bit of money doesn't mean the quality of the window is all that. You know, it's quality over quantity in
Hmm.
the end of the day. And I think we've kind of been looking at the window. I don't think it was a bad window, but it's definitely not what Conte I think expected. And Conte's here for a good time, not a long time. You know, he wants to get in and get out and get his trophy. And his goal is probably not long term, you know, building with young players. We've talked about that before. 1, 2 years, get as many players in there as possible, all the old guys he can possibly fit into that squad, and then try to win something and leave. And so the squad that he has, he doesn't think it's good enough. And some Tottenham fans do think it's good enough, but he doesn't think it's good enough to go the distance. Now, my other theory on this is I do think that he's disappointed by the window, but I
Mm.
also think he's a little bit likes to play the underdog kind of card.
Yep.
You know, he
True.
wants to always seem like we're just little old Spurs and we're not doing this and we're not doing that. And I'm like, pick where you want to be. Are you fighting for something and are you as good as so and so? Are you not? Because and then fans need to follow suit because one minute they're always underdogs, but then the next minute they're saying that they're better than everybody else. So we need Conte to pick a side and we also need the fans to pick a side. But he's definitely not happy with that window. And there's some Spurs fans that aren't, and they just weren't willing to say it.
No, listen, I agree. A tweet I liked by Ash, a man like Ash, who's been on the terrace before, good guy, who said that Conte's comments in this thread are extremely telling. I got called crazy when I said the window was very underwhelming, and when and even he knows. But I'm not a fan of his comments digging out Spence at all. He's a year younger than Emerson, who he wants to play in, who he plays every game. Emerson.
Royale.
Right. Okay. I don't know why I'm thinking of Emerson of Chelsea. So my brain just went missing. I forget that his first name was Emerson. That's so stupid. He went. He chose to keep Emerson, and this is the thing. I agree, and this is why it's telling for me. He's obviously not happy, but the fact that he is singling out Jed Spence, it's the second or third time he's done that. Now I know the agent of Jed Spence, and I know that they're not particularly happy with the treatment of the player. It took too long to get him in when the deal was seemingly agreed,
Oh,
and he's not being picked. And I know people are saying Royale's playing well, so you don't drop him. Jed Spence is superior than Royale in every single area, and it's a crazy one for me. And I think there's an element of playing the underdog, like you've mentioned, but I don't think he's happy. And the reason I say I've said for a while now that Tottenham's window is overrated is because it. And the way I want to say this is this: it started well. You looked at Perisic and went, okay, quick free signing. Basuma got done quickly. Like, okay, if that's the start. But when they signed Richarlison, that's when I started to change my mind. I saw 50 plus 10, £60 million total investment for a bang average show pony. That's all I saw. I didn't see a stallion. I didn't see a elite level racehorse. I saw a show pony. I saw a Shetland pony that you put your kids on at a fun fair for 60 million quid. And then they went for Bastoni. I thought, wow, they get Bastoni, they're on the way.
yeah.
And they ended up with Longley. Bastoni to Longley. That's like trying to buy a Range Rover and ending up with a broke down Ford Cougar. And for me, I was shocked at how they were being spoken about as potential title contenders, how the media were completely and utterly ignoring the lack of investment for a manager like him. And then at the same time, you had other clubs, and maybe I was being bitter about this, that invested £60 million in a 5 times Champions League winner who's still only 30 years of age. And everyone's talking like we just bought a 39-year-old who's just come out of retirement. And that's what annoyed me more than anything. And I probably took out a bit of my frustration on Tottenham. But seeing Antonio Conte essentially today go in a press conference and say, listen, guys, Terry Flewers was right. This is an overrated window. We're nowhere near the top teams. And I wouldn't say nowhere near. They can definitely beat Liverpool. They can definitely beat Tottenham. They can definitely beat City. And they could beat Arsenal, the best 3 teams in England right now. They could beat all those teams. We saw what they did against Chelsea. Like they were rubbish, but they still got
Yeah.
points. But I'm sticking to my prediction, and I'm sticking to it wholeheartedly. Spurs are coming fifth this year. They're coming fifth. They're not. Arsenal shooing for top 3. Liverpool and City will be top 2. Chelsea or Man United will get that 4th spot. It won't be Arsenal. Like, even if I don't care which one of Chelsea and Man United you want to put into it, Spurs won't do it. They will fall away. And the way he's already digging his team out, there's only a handful of times he can do that before the squad will turn on him in the end. And it's interesting to see. Like, I'm happy, but I'm just going to sit here and moan. You don't moan when you're happy. You just don't. You don't moan when you're happy.
Yeah. I mean, he's signed a lot of players though. Like, I know he's unhappy, but there's a lot of other managers that haven't gotten that level of backing, and maybe it's the names of the players that he didn't get. You know, they were looking at Yannick Carrasco, they're looking at Zaniolo, they're looking at those players too. They didn't get them, but he may not have been backed the way that he wants to be backed, but he's been backed enough where we're not going to be looking at little old Spurs like little old Spurs. You know, I've seen enough talking about how they're better than United, they're better than Arsenal, they're better than Chelsea. You know, they're right up there with the top two. I'm not taking it this season. They need to be right up there with them the entire time, because from the chat that I've been hearing about how much better they are than everybody else, I don't want to see this underdog stuff. You know, I really don't,
Mm,
because he may be unhappy, but you bought Kulusevski, or you made him a permanent. You brought in a lot of players, you know, and some of those players, Spurs fans have said that they're better than the players that we brought in.
yeah.
So Conte may be upset. I'm looking at Spurs fans like, don't
Yeah.
you start acting like an underdog, because you guys have been talking.
Well, even with Basuma now, Basuma's a player I rate. Even with Basuma, again, I'm going to quote Antonio Conte here. Antonio Conte's words are, he needs work because for sure he is behind Bentancur and Højbjerg. So
What?
suddenly you come into a team with higher standards, who teams approach in a different way. Teams don't treat Brighton like they treat Tottenham. Tottenham are seen as a bigger threat. And the managers looked at him and gone, yeah, you ain't ready yet. You know, these two are ahead of you. And I think that's not a dig at Basuma, but you also may find that's one of the reasons why. Maybe we'll find out this year with Basuma. You know, like there's sometimes players. I always mention William Carvalho as one. I think Ndidi falls into that category where no one ever made the move. And maybe with Basuma, there's a reason that the teams went, yeah, we're not too sure. Maybe I guarantee there are elements of football which everyone on Twitter, every YouTuber, every content creator thinks that they don't know it exists because they just don't have the awareness of football to understand it. Maybe there's something there. But look, I still think Basuma will be for me is the only. It's interesting. He's the one top class signing they've made this summer, and he's the one that like the manager's talking about ain't ready.
Yeah, well, I
It's
mean,
weird.
we speak about this all the time, is that there's a lot of players that play outside of the big six that we don't really know what they are until they actually get into a top six side. So he has to work through it. If he can't unseat Højbjerg, I am worried. Like, he should be able to take that spot. You know, he should be able to be better than them. But it's early days, but this is just how it is. Like a Declan Rice, we look at it exactly the same. Like, is he different when he gets to a top six team? And I think Basuma just probably needs some time. But yeah, it's looking like Conte is not excited about the window. But I think Tottenham has spent enough money and they've backed him enough where they can't be acting like underdogs as far as I'm concerned.
No, listen, I've been saying this for 5, 6, 7 years now. No one in the top 6 is an underdog in terms of poor, lack of resource. Okay, starting this season, Man United are an underdog for the title compared to Man City. But in the grand scheme of things, none of our clubs are underdogs. We are multiple. We're rich. Spurs have got one of the best training facilities, one of the best stadiums, one of the biggest incomes in world football. And they're in the Premier League with more TV money than any other country. They've got a growing fan base. They've got growing revenues. They are not an underdog. You know, they are not a Leicester who punched above their weight for a period of time. They're just none of these things. It's as simple as that. But viewers, what do you make of the situation with Tottenham and Antonio Conte's comments? Do you think he's happy with this squad? Where do you think this squad's going to end up now? The window is shut and you've seen them play 5 games. What are your predictions for them? We have some comments here. Terry Daniel Levy signed a striker who celebrates like a pigeon. Oh, did he do that weird pigeon thing? Yeah, he does the funky chicken thing. The stuff spoken about Richarlison can also be said about Anthony. Yeah, it can be. Listen, but people have said it about Anthony. We'll see what happens. I think with Richarlison, though, I've seen his inconsistencies live in the flesh in the Premier League. And if Anthony had been playing for Spurs for the past couple of years and we saw inconsistencies, and then we dropped £85 million on him, I would be questioning that deal 100%. Arsenal left it too late. Hope it doesn't bite us. We'll come back to that a little bit later, my friend. We'll save that one for later. If Tottenham don't win trophies with Conte, are they really a top 6 club in overall? Needs to be spoken about because it will be embarrassing. They are a top 6 club, and the top 6 club are predicated by the fact that if you look over the last 10 years, and you look who's finished inside the top 6, the teams we call the top 6 have predominantly finished in the top 6, and they're on their day, they are better than the other 14 teams, in my opinion. So I would put them in that category. Although Newcastle are now knocking on the door, and they're going to have a lot more resource than what the.
I'm so annoyed by it. Like, I'm so annoyed by it. Like, the Newcastle thing, it's so inevitable, and it's happening so quickly. It's evolving in front of my eyes. I'm just like, on deadline day, they were talking about they could potentially get Tielemans, and I was like, this is happening too quickly. Like, I'm very concerned about Newcastle.
I know.
Very.
I know, and everyone should be. Pete, remember, we're going to be previewing Man United versus Arsenal later, and reviewing the transfer windows for both sides as well. So stay with us for that. Stay with the show. Make sure you're smashing the like button for us. Let's get this. I'll do a big deal for you tonight. We hit 1,000 likes while we're live. I'm going to gift out 100 free memberships as a big thank you to the brilliant numbers that we got over the course of the transfer window. Record-breaking summer for the football terrace. And we've got some big things on the horizon for you, starting with Champions League football next week. So keep your eyes peeled.
Too bad we're not in it.
Yeah. I can enjoy the Champions League more though when my club's not in it, to be fair. So yeah, it's not too bad.
I don't enjoy it at all.
Chelsea. Aubameyang signed. Dennis Zakaria signed. 200. I've seen different websites say different things. I've seen between 250 to 285 million pounds invested in the here and now and for the future. With that level of investment, and I say so-called because Chelsea fans will say he is a so-called world-class manager. Do Chelsea have to challenge for the title? Should there be a title charge from Chelsea for this Premier League season to be seen as a success?
I mean, yeah, because they were talking about it last season and it didn't happen. And so, we've spoken about this on the Terrace many times, is that Chelsea fans have held on to this little imaginary trophy of being better than Man United and Arsenal and Spurs over the last couple of years. And that's always their rebuttal to any time an Arsenal fan or a Man United fan says something about them. Well, we're better than you. Well, yeah, but that's not the point. The whole Abramovich era was about winning. And the Bowley era has to be exactly the same. You're not going to lower your standards. It's not just about being the best, better than the rest. It's about closing the gap between Chelsea and Man City and Liverpool. And last season, they were meant to challenge. They didn't. It was really based off of the back of them winning the Champions League and maybe having an overinflated sense of self, maybe, and the value of the squad or the quality of the squad. So you can give them a pass for that. I'll never give Daniel a pass for saying that they had the same quality as Manchester City. I remember him saying it. It was disgraceful. But in general, we can give them a pass for that. But in terms of this season, the amount of money that's being spent, they have to get closer to the top 2. And I still think there is a top 2. Like, I still think Liverpool are gonna find some sort of form, and Man City are gonna be Man City. They have to figure out a way to be clear of the other 3. And I think the business that Arsenal and Man United and Spurs has done has definitely closed the gap on last year's Chelsea. Now we'll see if the business that they've done has got them away from us. I'm not sure it has, because the business prior to Aubameyang and Dennis Zakaria had not. It wasn't impressive. But beyond Sterling, I thought they looked quite similar to what they looked like last season, maybe even worse. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Aubameyang is a really, really good stopgap striker. Like, I do think he's gonna score goals for them, but how are they gonna get the ball to him? Are they gonna be able to create enough chances for him? He's not gonna hold the ball up for you. He's not gonna be able to link the play for you. So how are you guys gonna create those chances? Can you guys tighten up at the back because you guys been looser than you've been before? And what is Dennis Zakaria? Because as far as I'm concerned, that was a panic buy, and I'm not sure that it's gonna really improve them as much as they want. So it'll be interesting to see how Chelsea evolve over the next couple of weeks, but they got to close that gap for me. Like, they can't be swimming around with the rest of us chat. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's not the level that Chelsea, they said they have higher standards. They need to have higher standards than just being better than the rest.
So I would say this. I think they've had a phenomenal summer in terms of the people they've brought into the club. I think Cucurella, yes, he was overpriced. His valuation with most of the not transfermarket.co.uk. I'm talking the actual consultancies out there that set the prices. Chelsea paid almost double his valuation.
Mhm.
As an example, a lot of money on Fofana, a lot of, they've bought some of these kids. You'd say final day of the season, final day of the window. Aubameyang wasn't really a panic. They were looking at him for a large amount
No.
of the
It's a
of the
stopgap. It's
summer.
not a panic.
That's not a panic.
Yeah.
Dennis Zakaria, I really rate him. I think he's really good. So for me, I think he's actually going to be a better signing than Edson Alvarez.
Yeah, I disagree. But keep
No,
going.
I get that you do. For me, I felt Man United in January should have gone and bought Dennis Zakaria. I know it hasn't worked out for him at Juve, but that isn't. He's still young. He's not like a 27, 28-year-old who's kind of burnt out. Yeah,
Mhm.
like the Sal Niguez's, the Antoine Griezmann's. These players who were really good and they got to the mid to latter 20s and they just weren't. Maybe they lost a bit of hunger. Maybe they had some injuries. Maybe they just didn't care anymore. I don't know. But I think Dennis Zakaria is a good signing. I kind of look at Chelsea though, and I am saying this with chest. They don't have any excuses now.
Mm.
They have no excuses because they're on my chat, and I haven't seen my guy here. I always notice his comments because he super chats a lot. Big up yourself. I think his name's Adrian. Every Chelsea stream, he super chatted me all summer and just said, if we don't buy a DM, we're in trouble. Now, for me, I think they've bought a good quality DM. Have they bought the best DM in the world? No. But they've bought a good quality player that can pass and move the ball, that can break up play. They then have other decent midfielders. Kovacic, Kante will come back as an example. They've got other players they might be able to utilize. Did Conor Gallagher leave? He didn't, did he? They can utilize him in more of a natural role for him instead of trying to make him sit as an example. They've got a good enough midfield. They've got two prolific goal scorers, in my opinion, in Aubameyang. And people look at Sterling like he isn't prolific. Literally, the last 2 games, he scored 3 goals.
Yeah.
Once they find their flow, he'll put the ball in the back of the net. You put that ball across that 6-yard box 5 times a game, Sterling getting a goal a match. That's how good, like on average, that is how good he can be. So you've got 2 excellent players there. Defensively, I think they've sorted themselves out. The only thing that can hold Chelsea back is how quickly all these new players gel. It's the gelling together of these individuals, but they can't have excuses for me, Chelsea, about, and when I say excuses, they can't be finishing 5th or 6th. This is a team that has to be solidly in the top 4 and pushing towards title levels, even now, because they've got a world-class manager and they have quality from front to back. This team won the Champions League. This team went through how many months of the season last year without conceding? They know how to do it. They've just got to recapture that belief in themselves. And if they do that, they're there. So I don't believe they've got any real excuse this year to not be a good team because they've addressed all the areas. Some of it's makeshift for a year or two, Aubameyang as an example, but they haven't bought trash. They haven't gone out and bought Arnautovic and Rabiot. They haven't gone out and bought Longley and Richarlison. They haven't gone and got Arthur Melu. You could argue he's from Juve as well, so maybe, but they haven't gone out and bought someone who I think's washed. They've gone out. Dennis Zakaria has still got his career in front of him. Dennis Zakaria will turn himself around. I think Dennis Zakaria will have a good season at Chelsea.
If he can stay fit.
Yeah,
That's one of his biggest issues is he was never the same after that knee injury. So I'm putting like my stance on Zakaria is that he's good, but he ain't all that good. And if I had to choose between him or Artur, I think Artur is actually a better player than him, to be fair.
Artur's a better technical footballer. I just think
who's going to have a bigger impact, or like who do you think is going to have a better
Zakaria?
season?
I think I will. I think. Is it Artur? Is that how you say it? Or is it Arthur? Artur. Okay, let's call him Mello. He is going to be Mello in the Premier League. Mello. He is going to get eaten alive in central midfield in England.
This is somebody that played for Barcelona who was really good for Barcelona.
Why? What's that got to do with anything?
He's a good player.
Right.
He was in a bad situation.
Right.
Like, Zakaria has never been considered a top player at at any point in his career.
I totally understand that, but at the end of the day, certain players at different stage of their career past their best, and I don't think he's going to.
Artur is only 26, right?
Right.
So he's not past it. Like he's not washed.
I think mentally he's gone, and equally, even if he wasn't, I don't think he is going to do well in the Premier League. Like Philippe Coutinho was excellent here, right? Went abroad and was never quite as good.
Okay.
That same difference.
But why?
It's a feeling.
Oh, okay. So
I'm basing it on how I've seen him play, the leagues that I've seen him do well in, And I just don't think he's gonna do well in the speed of play, the heavy metal approach of Liverpool. I just think he's and you know what it's like to play Liverpool style of football, you've either got to be supremely fit already in a system that's similar, or it takes you about 18 months to catch up and be like up to pace with it. I don't see how he's going to do that in a year. I think he's really going to be off the pace. I don't think it's a good signing at all. I think it's a really poor signing from Liverpool. Really, really poor signing.
This is gonna be funny to see
Panic
because
buy.
I definitely well, both of them are panic buys. Let's get it
Mm.
clear. Both were panic buys and not the number one choice. Like Zakaria was definitely like down the pecking order. They looked at Sangare before and Alton Alvarez before. So they're both panic buys, but I'd be surprised if either of them went through the entire season without getting injured because both of them have injury issues. But I think Artur will probably be better. I just rate him higher, like in terms of what he can bring. But Zakaria, at least they have somebody there to sit at the base because they don't have it when Conte is gone. So it's definitely something that's a positive for Chelsea.
Well, Joshua here says, Terry, I can make the same argument against Zachariah. Listen, you can make, for players that are non-Premier League proven, you can make the argument that you don't think they'll make it here. Equally, you can see a player move internally within the Premier League and go, I don't think they're a Man United player. I don't think they'll suit the way, like, Oxlade-Chamberlain is a prime example. Technically, he suits Pep Guardiola. Physically, it's horrendous for him. Physically, it's horrendous for him with the way they play football. So it's not about Prem proven versus not. I just look at Artur Melo, and I don't think he's a Premier League footballer. I think we're going to see the same from him as we saw from different position, of course, as we saw from Kabak when he came in. It's Liverpool panicking last minute, bringing in a player to appease the fans very cheaply. Yes, there's an option to buy, but they're not going to be buying him. He isn't going to do a good job. He's going to be like Danny Ceballos. There'll be moments, and this is what he'll do, and this is where the eye test will fool everybody. There'll be moments in games where you go, oh, look at that pass. Because passing is passing is passing is passing. But it's all the other elements of the game. I know he's looking old, but James Milner will have a better season than Artur Melo.
I doubt it.
Listen, I believe he will. I just, it is what it is. But they've panic bought. But on Chelsea, though, I think they've got a really good squad for the season. I don't think they'll win the league. I don't think they can win the league. City, in fairness, I don't think anybody that I predicted Liverpool. They put 5 games to change your mind. I didn't expect Liverpool to be this bad. They have been. If you were an alien that came out of space and you're watching the Premier League for the first time, you'd say, "Oh, they newly promoted." They look atrocious. Every team they've played has exposed that high line. Every team that they've played has exposed that high line, with or without Thiago being fit, with or without this player being in and out of the team from day one this season. They are not at Arsenal standards so far this season, and they are definitely not at Man City standards. And I've got to hold my hands up and say I got that one wrong because I thought they were going to be so much better than they are right now.
I'm not going to go that far and say that they look like a newly promoted side. I think that's a little bit far. They definitely not been at their best, and they're definitely struggling in terms of numbers and quality in midfield for sure. So we'll see what happens with Liverpool. I know at some point they will go on some sort of run. It just may not be enough. Like it may just be too late. But yeah, Liverpool, they haven't looked great. But yeah, I'd like to say less now at this point because if I say anything more about Liverpool, they're gonna be in my DMs. So
but you just got
you'll be fine.
You just got to speak. You just got to speak your mind. Liverpool have been a great team. They have, and I think they can get back to being that. And by the way, I still think they're going to finish in the top 2, but they just won't. And if you listen to what I said, they're not at Arsenal's level right now. They'll catch them to pass Arsenal this season, in my opinion. But City have just started I did hear a Liverpool fan say to me earlier, there is a theory going around Liverpool fans that because City have started well when they normally don't, they're going to have a bad patch elsewhere, which is where they're going to catch them up.
I mean, I feel like that's more of a hope than a theory, like because just because you can't, I mean, you could actually make an argument that they'll just blow you away because they haven't had the slow start.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a hope than an actual theory because you can argue in a different direction for that. But Liverpool have to hope that City have a down period at some point because at the moment they look unplayable. They look like, I mean, even if they're not playing at 100%, they have somebody that can save them. They have a world-class level striker up top that's like a cyborg that can just do whatever. And it's just, so they have to hope that. And if I was Liverpool, that's what I'd be hoping. But They just need to focus on their team getting some sort of run versus Man City hitting some sort of bad patch of form because I don't see it happening. Like, I just not right now. Like, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, Haaland is a kind of player that gets you through a bad patch by scoring, and I'm hating what he's doing from a Man United fan point of view, but from a I told you so element, I knew what Haaland was going to do this year. Haaland was always going to come out and be this good. He was always going to come out and deliver in this way. It was always going to happen because he's done it everywhere he's been. Norway, Austria, Germany, Champions League.
Mhm.
People have thought, and it wasn't like he's a shrinking violet. He's a big personality, well built, physically very, very strong. And if he can get over his injury problems, so if his injury problems are some men his age go through those injury problems because they're actually too big for their age. Like they almost the muscles haven't caught up with this with their growth at that point, and there's all these the body hasn't quite figured itself out. If he can get over those injuries and keep progressing, like yeah, Liverpool just aren't catching because he's just they could be crap, but one chance that man's gonna score.
I also think about, like, the teams that City have played. Like, I think they got past the Crystal Palace situation. They usually lose to Crystal Palace. They got past that. They've drawn to Newcastle and away, which I think a lot of top 6 teams are gonna struggle away from home against Newcastle. So they kinda got past that, and so, like, what Liverpool have to hope is that obviously they go through a bad patch of form, but they lose to Spurs again.
Mm.
Like, because they only lose out on certain amount of points, and some of them are guaranteed. And them getting past Crystal Palace, I would be looking as a Liverpool fan, I'd be like, "When are they gonna play Spurs?" But then also Liverpool did not play well against Spurs, so it's about where can they gain points and where could Man City potentially lose them, but yeah, not looking good, bruv.
Yeah, no, I hear that completely. Some super chats here. Terry, the Prem is overrated. We've seen technical players succeed in the Prem, even though it's fast-paced league. I don't think the Prem's overrated. It can't be overrated. It's literally the best league in the world because more people watch it. But no one claims it's the best because it has the technically best football. And that's the argument. Oh, I prefer the football in La Liga. It's more technical. That isn't the argument. The best doesn't. That's preference. The best is who gets the most views. Like me and Jess both release an album, and 10 million people buy mine, and 25 million people buy hers. Her album is better than mine. You might think mine's better, but that's an opinion. The facts are which one sold the most. Like that's what you go by, in my opinion. And which league gets watched the most? The Premier League. And people say, I hear people say, it's because the marketing's better, like the graphics, the design, the package is better. Yeah, but if you could package something, make it look brilliant, you could have the best marketing team, the best everything. If the product is crap, people don't buy it again. And the reason that people return to watching the Premier League is because it's more compelling. The technical element of the game gets, again, when people start talking about over vertical tactics are impairing our ability to break between the half spaces and lines. That's not how anybody speaks about football. Even coaches don't really speak like that. Really, they don't. I've watched how many All or Nothings now, and I've not really heard managers speak like that. Not really. If Pep Guardiola ain't talking like that, why the fuck is some knob on YouTube speaking like that? Like you're making up language that don't exist in the game. So I hear your point, bro. But the Premier League's the best. Whether you think it's the best technically or not, it doesn't even matter to me. Like I agree. I think that the Liga is a more technical league. I do. I think the football. I think that the style of football in Germany is better, like in terms of the collective group. But best and better in terms of technical. I think they're different conversations, my friend. But there we go. It's a bit like when we rate football teams. Who the best team is versus who the biggest team is, and it's not the same conversation. So maybe we should change it and say the Premier League is the biggest league in the world. That's what we should say. Terry, don't worry, Aubameyang is washed. Remember, all of a sudden, just go with it. Remember, he's 33, like Silva is 38, as we kept hearing. He won't make it at Chelsea. Let me just say now about Aubameyang. Aubameyang is going to hurt Arsenal this year. Maybe not in games against Arsenal, but there's going to be some moments this year where Arsenal fans are like, not all Arsenal fans, let me rephrase this. There'll be some Arsenal fans that are going to go, why did we let him go? Even with Gabriel Jesus. At the very least, why did we let him go for free? That's what's going to come out. Like he's going to have, I think he'll have a really good year at Chelsea. He had a very somber, wholesome kind of welcome video, but I think he's
I
chomping.
mean,
I
he
think he's
looked like
chomping at
he
the
had
bit.
been no, he looked like he was being held hostage. He didn't look like he was chomping at the bit. I mean, his dream move was to be at Barcelona, and he was shifted out because they didn't want to have him anymore. So yeah, but I think Aubameyang is going to score goals, but I think the idea that Arsenal fans are going to be sitting around crying about it is a little disingenuous. It's about what we're doing. It usually only holds weight if you're not doing well. So yeah, that's just me.
So Oba says the most entertaining competitive league is the Prem, but then he also said that the best league is La Liga. See, this is what I really find interesting about football fans. The same people that are like tacticos will say football's about entertainment, so you want attractive football, but then we'll say that the Premier League is the best league. That isn't the best league, but it's the most entertaining. So I don't really listen. I get your point, but for me, the entertainment part makes it the best league, in my view. But Bundesliga is very entertaining and high tempo of games. Only winning has decided before the season, but second to 18th race is very interesting. Yeah, it probably is. It probably is. I get your point on that. That makes a lot of sense. Viewers, make sure you're smashing like buttons and you're subscribing to the Football Terrace. But before we get on to the Man United preview part of today's show, Edu Out was trending last night, Jay. A lot of angry Arsenal fans at not signing another midfielder. A lot of angry Arsenal fans at not getting a winger. Why are they angry, and where do you sit on this argument?
Because they wanted a winger or a midfielder. Like,
Well, I know that.
well, I haven't finished my thing. See, why are you doing all that? You just what? What are you mad about? I mean,
I'm
that's
not
been
mad. Just like I know that. Just like get into it. Stop deflecting.
I'm not deflecting. Arsenal fans wanted another player, and we were kind of promised one. I feel like at some point we felt like it was coming. They kept saying like, okay, Arsenal are still in for a winger, they're still in for a midfielder. And as the time ticked down, we didn't get one. And so I think there's a frustration. I think it's also been compounded by the injuries in midfield that we had, which ultimately were the reason why Arsenal went after Douglas Luiz. So, yeah, like I think that's why people are frustrated. But I also think like there's a section of the fan base that we're waiting on something to be really upset about because we've been winning games and they didn't think we were going to be decent this season. They didn't like the signings. And so this is a reason to be really upset. I understand the frustration because I was really, really frustrated because I just felt like we've never really addressed midfield the way that we probably should have.
Mm.
I just don't understand why we can't buy another midfielder. Like, I just don't get it, and it just feels like it's never really addressed properly. Now, I get that Arsenal bought Fabio Vieira, and they bought him for 30 million, so clearly they think that there's a really good player there. I also think there's a really good player there, but we haven't seen him play yet. So, he could actually be the key to all of this feeling a lot better. But ultimately, when you have those injuries and then you don't bring somebody in, when you feel like all this time we were being told that we're going to be getting another player, it's frustrating. Where I can't really connect with the idea that that means that the window was a failure. And I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans that have jumped off the deep end, have gone overboard and severely overreacted. And it's like, so if we don't get everything, then it's a failure. And I don't actually feel like that's how you should analyze a window. I really don't, because we really did address so many of our big issues. It's just a matter of like, okay, what about that one last player and what could not getting that do? But we did get some really good players, and so I think it's a good window.
Yes, you're right. It was good to very good. 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
But I also get listen. There are some Edu Out people. They're part of the Arteta Out crew. They just want to be. They've spent 3 months not being able to moan. The first 5 games of the season have not been able to moan. They miss the attention that it gets them. So I get that. But I do think Arsenal fans should be annoyed at. I don't think you should be annoyed. I think Edu Out is ridiculous. It should be Kroenke's what the hell you're doing. Because I do think you'll make top 4 this year, by the way. I still believe that. But as you've said, no one can foresee what's going to happen on Sunday. Who knows? One wrong twist by a player and it's 6 months out. And that goes for all teams, by the way, but we're talking about Arsenal directly. And if the wrong player gets injured at the wrong time for Arsenal this year, you could end up missing out. Equally, there could be some burnout, there could be some tired legs. If you miss out on something special by a point or two, you'll look back and be like, that extra bit of investment now, it is massive. You miss out on the Champions League, which is worth anywhere between 50 to 80 million pounds for the sake of spending 40 million on deadline day. It's a bad investment choice. If you make the Champions League without it, you can look back and go, well, didn't need to spend it. But I think the risk they're running makes everything a little bit tighter and a little bit harsher. And you've got the other element where the Kroenkes, via the media, have lied to you all again. The whole cooling of the interest in Tielemans. Now, what we were told initially was they've got it done. It's in the bag, everyone. But we're going to go get Rafinha and a defender sorted out. Then we're coming back. As I said, probably to you every 2 weeks on our shows and others. It doesn't seem, it didn't fit. It just sounded like typical club PR. And that's the only thing that's annoyed me. And Arsenal fans may not care because they're on top of the league and they're in the ascendancy, but I think you should care about these things because if they lie to you in the good times, what are they going to do in the bad times? And I think they've strong. I think there was almost zero intention to buy unless you could get a cheap deal. The lines of we couldn't find the right players is we're not willing to spend the money on the right players. In my opinion, we had Fergie do it for the Glazers for years. No value in the market. No, the Glazers wouldn't sanction the money needed to sign David Silva, to sign Sergio Aguero. They should have been Man United players, not Man City players, and we wouldn't spend the money. And that would, me and you've had this conversation on the show before. All the Arsenal fans after a good run of games last year, Kroenke doing a good job now. You'll know they're doing a good job if 4, 5, 6, 7 years, they're consistent every summer. The squad keeps getting better. Your best players aren't sold. They're given market value standard contracts to keep them here. And even when you get an element of success, you keep spending until you're at the top, and then you spend to stay at the top when you need to. That's what the biggest clubs in the world do. Then you can say you're being run well for a club that you get for a group of fans who get charged the most amount of money for shirts. You release about 5 a year, the most amount of money for season tickets. And people think I'm trying to make Arsenal fans angry at their own club. No, I've just got an expectation of how these billionaire owners treat the working class fans who built these football clubs. And I look at the way what they've done and think you've penny pinched and you've just kind of, used PR nonsense headlines to work your way through it. A number of respected journalists who do your bidding for you, and a handful of content creators that will just, whatever Arteta says, they'll get on their knees and they'll gargle whatever it is that he puts in their mouth.
So what about having limits of spending? Like, you don't think that there's ever a limit to spending, or we should just continue to, because it's to say that they're penny pinching, I think is disingenuous,
No.
because they have spent money. So it's not, penny pinching would be like not getting anything really, but they have spent money over the last 3 seasons. But we also were flagged for being close to FFP. So is there no argument there that maybe we just couldn't go over a certain amount and there had to be some sort of budget, and that we were not in the same spending situation as Manchester City or Chelsea or other teams that may not have spent as much as us over the last couple of seasons? Because we've been top spenders for the last maybe 2 summers.
Potentially, then say that we have no more money to spend, not that we just didn't find the right players. Don't tell the fans that you've called your interest and you're going to come. Charles Watts, when he wrote that article, got that from, he got it from Arsenal Football Club. He did, because he's got connections there. Don't lie to the fans and say we've called the interest and we're coming back later to buy him. I can buy everything you say if they say that. Just say we're done for now. We've spent what we're spending, and we're happy with the squad.
Their interest and they may come back. Most people said maybe, but maybe not.
I read that article, and that article alluded to sorting out other business and maybe coming back later on in the window. And it was never really challenged by the hardcore Arsenal fans. And then the next story was actually Arteta's not sold on his fitness issues, and it changed over the course of the summer. My point is this: come out and say we've spent what we can spend. We're very happy with this squad. We're going to head into the season full steam ahead. That's being honest with the fans. Going out on the last day of the window. And by the way, even with Douglas Luiz, I don't think he's worth 40 million with 1 year left on his deal. But you tried to get him on the final day of the season. And
because El Neni got injured.
Yes, I understand that. But Yuri Tillemans was available for 25 million for weeks. The point I'm making is you could have gone and bought another midfielder. If you'd have put the pressure on Villa and Douglas Luiz 3 weeks ago, that guy was clucking to join you yesterday. He would have pushed and pushed and pushed, and you could have forced the move through at maybe 30 million. So 10 million less. If you're willing to spend, if
They
you're willing,
didn't need him because El Neni had not been injured
but
yet,
you say they didn't
though.
need him, but you're, I mean, at what percentage of games is Partey missed?
Most people wanted a number 8. That's the
Okay, but
position
I'm
that we're
asking you a
looking
question
at.
about we're talking about the money, not the position. How many games, what percentage of games has Partey missed since he joined Arsenal?
He's missed a lot, but
You
El
told me that
Neni
you
was
told me the other
there.
day, what is it? 40 odd percent?
58%.
So 58%. So you need
He's been available for 58%.
you need, okay, so he's missed 42% of games.
Okay.
You needed an alternative midfielder. El Neni isn't even good enough. So for nearly half your season, you'd have to rely on El Neni, who isn't good enough. I think your club should be asking, fans should be asking to invest more. And if you're willing to spend 25 million, if you'd have gone earlier for Douglas Luiz or a player of that quality, you might have been able to get him for 30 million. Now, I don't think an extra £5 million is the difference between failing FFP and passing it. That's my point. I understand where you're coming from, but I just think they're pulling the wool over your eyes.
I don't think they're pulling the wool over our eyes. Like, I really don't. I think you've read a couple of things, and because also people that you're connected with have said we were always going to go back for Tielemans. There's been several people that are close to Arsenal that said they're not sure, maybe, maybe not. So it was never really definitive. Then we started to look at a winger. We wanted to get Pedro Neto. We didn't feel like he was worth the 50 million. That may be something that you can talk about, but
where's the again? Where's the money that you were going to spend? You guys were going to buy a defender irrespective, right?
a what?
You were going to buy a defender irrespective of you were always going to buy a defender this summer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So where's the Rafinha money that you're willing to spend on him?
Well, we were willing to spend the 50 million on Rafinha, but maybe not as much for Pedro Neto.
So if you were willing to spend the 50 million, then it ain't an FFP issue, is it?
Well, maybe we still are looking at other players and we want to push it and get like the targets that we actually want. I see what you're trying to say, that we should just get whatever player because we're in some
No,
sort of crisis.
I'm not saying get whatever.
Arsenal's
No,
not in a
but I don't say
crisis.
you're in a crisis. I'm not saying you should get whatever player. I don't think Pedro Neto is just some random player. The same Arsenal journalist was saying that Pedro Neto is the primary target in a wing position.
How much was he going to cost? You know?
I reckon you could have got him for £60 million.
Well, if Arsenal weren't willing to spend 60 million,
But you were willing to spend 50+ million on Rafinha if he said yes, and you bid 25 million for Douglas Luiz. That's the money there for Neto.
But it's not about the money being available. It's about how much they feel like he's worth. Because you talk about all the time that Manchester United get Manchester United prices because
Yeah.
people know you guys are willing to spend whatever on whatever player.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. You don't want people taking you for a ride in the market. So maybe your position is we'll only buy players at the price that we feel like they're worth. They didn't think Pedro Neto was worth more than whatever they were willing to spend.
And that's fine, but I think and that's fine for them to think about. I think they've potentially made a mistake. And you know how much I praise your team this year. You know 100%. I think you're going to have a very, very good season, but I think you've got to protect yourselves against the issues. Now, I want Man United to drive the price down and pay as little as possible. But at the same time, when there's holes that need to be filled, I'd rather overspend by £20 million on Anthony than not have Anthony at this moment in time. And again, with Arsenal, you are not a title-winning, Champions League winning team that can maybe, like, Liverpool haven't bought well this year. I've ranked them number 6 in the top 6 for their window, but I still think they'll come second. Arsenal are not at Liverpool's level yet, and I think they've just scrimped and scraped. And I think what's more annoyed me has been the way all summer when I went out on Twitter and was like, "Oh, do you guys actually think you'll buy people in these positions? How dare you say we won't? Yes, they will. They'll do this." And now that it hasn't happened, the mental gymnastics I'm seeing from Gooners is unbelievable. Well, you guys were all lied to. You were telling me their lies. Now you're saying they weren't lying. It's kind of weird to me. But yeah, I just don't like the way they've treated Arsenal fans. I think it's been wrong myself. But viewers, like, what do you think? Do you think the Kroenke should have spent more money this summer? Do you think they've invested enough over the last 2 or 3 years and have got a good enough squad to achieve what they want to achieve this year? I would love your views, love your thoughts. Make sure you're smashing like and share buttons for us today on Top Facts. Selling players, i.e. Pepe, Leno. Well, that's what they also said. They're not going to buy more until they sell, and they sold people and then buy.
They did try to buy somebody, though. Like, you act like they just sat there and did nothing.
I don't know. Cheap, but like not getting enough back from sales to impact that. they could have spent if from FFP point of view. I hear
We
that?
probably did need to sell more too. That's a good
Probably.
point.
I'm not mad. I'm glad we didn't panic buy. I'd rather hold out for the end product. Feel with the squad diversity, we can cover most positions. And that's a fair point being
Because
made there,
people
my
are
friend.
still acting like we didn't sign a midfielder, and I get why, because nobody knows anything about Fabio Vieira, but we spent 30 million on him, and the idea that, okay, well, you should overspend for players that you really need. We did. We spent a lot on Gabriel Jesus with the last year in his contract. We spent a lot on Fabio Vieira, and we spent the money on Zinchenko. So it's not like we didn't spend. Like, when we want a player, we buy them. And so, like, I get it, and I'm disappointed that we didn't get Douglas Luiz. I wanted us to try to get him because we're definitely short in midfield, but I still feel like it's not this big conspiracy to lie to Arsenal fans about what they're trying to do, and they're trying to pull the wool and make us feel stupid and all that kind of
I
stuff.
don't think they're trying to make you feel stupid. I just don't.
Because I saw reports, like, from several Arsenal journalists that they were never convinced 100% that we would go after Tielemans. He was an early priority, and then it shifted, and it really shifted after we bought Vieira.
And I don't that what you're saying there. Ben Jacob told me nearly every week, and I respect that. But it's not about what Ben Jacob or Fabrizio or Ornstein says, who are kind of generic. I'm talking about those tier one Arsenal journos that 80% of the Arsenal fan base, like, oh my God, if he says it, that's I believe. Oh, rub it
But
on my
that's what
face.
Ornstein, isn't that you're talking about
No,
Ornstein?
Ornstein is,
Because he's literally our tier 1 guy,
but he's everybody's tier one guy.
but he's not, like, our main one. So who are you actually, like,
Well, I'm
talking
not
about?
going to name these people. I don't want beefs out there online, but I just find it funny how people just drink that Kool-Aid. And he never turned around and wrote that article. It's the people that do. And I'm just like, I'm not even saying you shouldn't believe what these people say. There's no, I think what insults me as a human being is the lack of people's own opinions. It's just
Okay.
they parrot what the journalist said. That's it then. It's like, what? Read between the lines, bro. Read between the lines. At least ask a question. It's just too convenient, neat, and tidy for me. And I say it about my club, by the way. My club lies to us all the time. You see it always. Ironically, this year, Chelsea have had a weird summer because so much of their stuff has been exposed to the media because they didn't sugarcoat and they didn't PR anything. And you've seen a difference in their approach compared to, look at Liverpool's all summer. No, we don't need anyone. We're ready. We're ready. We're ready. And then they had to come out and admit they were wrong because they had to go and buy someone because they got it wrong. And then, but what's the first thing you see when the window closes? What's the first article that comes out? From James Pearce. And I like James Pearce, nice guy. What's the first article they put out? Next summer, the number one priority is Jude Bellingham, and Liverpool are confident. Those kind of, as soon as you see that as one of the first things your club releases when the window ends, you've been bullshitted to all summer, as far as I'm concerned. That's just my and that's not an Arsenal thing. That's football in general. They just come out with this stuff
It's a
all
lot
the
for a
time.
7.5 good window. Like, it's like as if it was like a huge
No,
failure or
no, I
something.
didn't say it was a failure. I said he's done well, but I think you guys could have had a 10.
Yeah,
I think you could have had 10.
We could have had
And
a
I think you
10.
could afford a 10. I think you could have had a 10. I think the players were there for you to have a 10.
You
But
don't
I
know
think
the
you can.
financial
Yeah,
situation.
you're rich. You charge your fans extortionate amounts of money. Your fans are so happy at the minute. If you said, listen, we can't afford to spend the extra 10 million to get Neto, but we're thinking of increasing the hot dog prices by 50p a go. Are you guys happy with that? And we'll get Neto. Your fans are going, increase it by £1. Your fans love your club. You make enough money. You've got the money there. You've got the money.
I think
You've
you're
got the money.
assuming that the money is there.
Your club is super rich. I believe you got the money. In my opinion, I believe you got the money. But new USA TV deal money coming down. They got money, Arsenal. They just chose not to spend it. I mean, look, listen. You might fulfill my prediction and come third, and then buy next year. And then when you buy next year, there'll be no harm done. And if you guys make top 4 this year, none of you will care. And I totally get that. I just don't like the PR element that gets thrown out at fans. And I hate even more that fans fall for it every year. It's weird to me. It's very weird.
Are you saying I fell for it then?
I'm not accusing you of anything. You actually are. No,
I'm just asking.
You haven't, in fairness. I'll give you a lot of props. You actually sit there more privately than publicly. You'll criticize things to do with Arsenal. When you
literally criticize them. I'm disappointed that we didn't get the player.
I know you do. So I don't think you do. I just think some fans do, and I totally get that. Viewers, smash that like and share button, people. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. But this weekend, Jay, The big one. It's the big one.
Mhm.
And that's early in the season, but I think it's the biggest game of the season so far in terms of your run, Man United's little turnaround of form. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? Can Ten Hag stop the invincible run?
I don't know. I don't I'm actually confident. I think we're actually gonna play really well, to be honest. Um, I feel a lot of Man United fans are quite confident, which I kinda like because maybe their team will get a little bit confident. You know, I think there's an element of Manchester United always look at us as little old Arsenal and I don't think we're the same Arsenal that they've played over the last couple of years and even the last couple of years we've gotten over on you guys a couple of times. So, yeah, I think we're going to play well. I think we're going to shock a lot of people. I've noticed that there's a feeling amongst Manchester United and rivals that it's time for Arsenal to get their humbling. I don't think it's going to come this time around. Manchester United are doing well. They've won 3 games on the bounce. They're confident, but I mean, I think most Man United fans that are being honest can say that they're not playing amazing, and we're gonna press you, we're gonna have energy, we have threat, and, yeah, so I think it's gonna be a feisty game, I think there's gonna be a lot of fouls and a lot of stuff going on, but I think we're gonna be good. Like, I'm actually pretty confident. I think we'll get something out of the game. I don't think we'll lose. That's why I'll say that.
Do you feel like Man United have turned a corner?
Mm, not real I mean, yes, they're doing better, but turned a corner would mean, like, when we were seeing signs of progression under Mikel Arteta, we were told many, many times that we hadn't turned a corner and we haven't passed this test, we haven't done this, we haven't done that, and I feel like it's only right that I keep the same energy that was placed upon us and put it on you guys that it's just 3 games, you haven't played anybody really, you played Liverpool, but they were at their weakest, and so, yeah.
Southampton, not a hard test?
Do you think it was our test?
I'm asking you.
Oh, they're alright.
So when you say keeping the energy on Arsenal, do you mean I don't believe it, but I'm just going to do it for tit for tat, or do you believe that the energy that was on Arsenal was right?
No, I mean, I think I'm keeping the same energy as if, like, yeah, like, I'm just gonna say the same things that people said to us, but I don't think you guys have actually turned a corner, you guys are just doing better, but if I'm keeping the same energy, you guys haven't done anything, it's early, it's only 3 games, that kinda stuff.
So only 3 games, but yours is only 5.
Yeah, but I
So if
also
we beat you at the weekend, then 4 is that we're doing something, or do we have to hit 5 wins on the bounce to be changed? Like where do you
well, I
where
also
do you draw the
haven't said
line?
that Arsenal have done anything special.
You don't
So,
think winning your opening 5 games for the first time in nearly in over 2 decades? Sorry, 2 decades. Sorry, you don't think that's good?
it's good, but I'm not sitting here saying that we're gonna win the title.
No,
So,
but but you know you're a different team this year, right?
I mean, I think we're a different team, yeah.
So you've done something then. You've improved.
We know what done something means.
No,
Improved
no,
and
no.
done
You, yeah,
something is
don't
different.
don't ever put me in a box with other weirdos online. Like I'm talking me. You've improved. You need to maintain that. You need to become consistent. But to act like Arsenal haven't improved is would be mad. But we'll park Arsenal for a minute. I'm asking whether you think we've turned the corner. I actually agree with you, by the way. I'm just trying to understand your logic rather than what your someone's reasoning is more important to me than their answer. And for me, we haven't turned a corner yet. We've had 3 good games. You batter us at the weekend, and there will be a lot of annoyance at Man United. So we're a long way. When you kind of know you turned a corner, is where one defeat doesn't change the mindset of a fan base.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I don't think Man United are at that point yet where we can lose a game and be like, it's fine still. We'll bounce back next week. I was watching earlier on today. It's in a good mood. I watched the season review of 2012-13 when we last won the league. And there were some games in it where we lost. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we lost that game. But then we went and won the next 4 league games after, then drew, and then won 3, and then drew, and then won 5, and then lost 1, and then won 3. Like back then, losing game hurt me, but I always knew we'd bounce back and win our next game. I don't know that anymore. So there's a lot kind of going on there. But look, it's such a weird game because everyone knows I think Arsenal have been brilliant. I think you are brilliant. I think you're playing the best football in the league. The speed of your press is phenomenal. The way you win the ball back is brilliant. I know you've conceded some goals as well, but the goals haven't really been like I don't feel like you've been penetrated. Does that make sense? I don't feel like people. No one's been ripping you apart.
They've all been errors mostly
Yeah,
from us.
exactly. And like Man United are going to have to be at their absolute best from an attacking point of view to be able to beat you. And I'm not confident of a Man United win. I've said this for a few days now. You are the favourites for the first time in my life, in my living memory as an adult, at Old Trafford. But we can beat you. We can beat you in the sense of I'm going into this game believing you will win because I think you're favourites.
Mhm.
But unlike all the games at the back end of last season under Ralph Ragnick against the bigger teams, I had zero hope, zero belief that we could do anything because we weren't working hard. We had no shape to our team. We've got shape now. We've got a handful of players. Obviously, we know how good Lisandro Martinez is. We can see now why your manager was so desperate to sign him and bring him in next to Saliba because his ability on the ball, his ability in the air, his ability to command from the back is sensational. Young Malacia started well. Casemiro came on yesterday, and you just saw a difference in class. And I really want him starting. Could be a big difference because if we could nullify Odegaard, who's been sensational for you, that would be a huge, huge thing. And we've got a chance. We have got a chance. Like suddenly, Raphael Varane is looking like Raphael Varane. You know, I mean, people telling me that Ben White was a better signing than him. Under Ollie, yeah, you're probably right. But under a proper structure and a proper system for the next few years, everyone's going to see that Raphael Varane is one of the best centre backs in the world. And you've got him next to Lisandro Martinez. I think the pair work very, very well together. So we have a chance. My biggest fear is not being able to break you down and score. I believe that if Casemiro is on point and defensively we're sound, we could nullify you to a goal, maybe two. I think you're really good, but it's us being able to score that's my biggest worry.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you guys are creating enough chances or enough good chances. I think that's what makes me like if it's not good because Ronaldo doesn't even look like he's at 100%. He usually gets his usual goal against us, but the attack's not really clicking the way that I think it would need for us to be like super, super worried. But it's still Old Trafford. It's still going to be a difficult game. I still expect you guys to get a penalty. Like, I expect all those types of things to happen. But I just think that we have a different mentality now. Like, even if we go down, I feel like we can come back. Like, I think we can break you guys down. I know you guys have been good attacking wise, but I just haven't seen you play against an attack that I felt like was like ours. You know, you haven't been pressed like we press. And so I think it's going to be a good game. Like, I still think it's going to be like probably 1 goal margins and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game, but I think we're going to play really well. I think we're going to shock a lot of people because I still think people think Manchester United are going to blow us away. Whether
Who
that's
thinks this? Who says this?
I had people in my chat just like an hour ago saying that.
Who are there though?
Manchester United fans,
Yeah, but who?
Tottenham fans. I mean, I don't
Tottenham
know their
fans, right.
names. Like, I don't know
No,
their
but
names.
any real human beings that you've heard say this?
I mean, somebody sent me a clip of a podcast where somebody was saying that they were confident.
Who's on this
that
podcast?
I don't know who it was, but it was like a professional podcast radio show where they were saying that they felt like Manchester
Okay.
United were going to win. Like, a lot of people feel like you guys are going to win because
Some.
historically, no, it's not some. It's
A lot. Show me a lot.
well, we also
Find me 10 people
but
saying
also,
it.
well, I had a couple people in my chat. There's
No,
that.
10 actual people with their real names and faces.
Well, didn't yesterday we were on the show and David said that Manchester United were gonna win.
David is a Chelsea fan. Show me these Man United fans saying it.
Oh, I don't care if it's Man United.
No, I
fans. We're
do
talking
because
about-
because you can't like Man United Football Club and fans are not responsible for what a Chelsea fan thinks.
So
What a Man United fan
so
saying?
what okay, so Man United fans don't think that they're gonna win.
I haven't seen a lot of Man United fans confident that they're going to slap you.
But you guys think you're gonna win.
No, I've just said I think you're winning, but we can win the game, but I think you'll win. I've not seen any Man United fan come out and be like, I think we're going to win and slap Arsenal. No way.
I had 2 in my chat that
But I don't care about. I mean, I want to know like actual people.
Okay.
Forget trolls on. No disrespect to you in the chat. That's a troll online.
I will find them because the idea that Manchester United fans are not confident, that they don't think that they're gonna win, is a total lie. Rants. They're saying rants.
Rants, Mike. That's one. But my point is this: I'm not saying there's none. I'm saying
find 10.
there's not lots. But by the way, 10 out of 150 million people.
Yeah, but still, like, even even if it's a couple of Arsenal fans, it's the Arsenal
No,
fans.
some Arsenal fans.
Stop playing it down. Manchester United fans are
And
confident.
you are just saying that because what you want to do when you beat us. You'd be like, see, you all thought you were going to win and we don't.
You
Like,
do.
right in the comments
You
right
guys,
now, right? Yes,
KG,
right, yes.
Said, and Rance. There's 3 big ones right there.
Okay, cool. Well, you didn't know that until you read the comment section. You
But
didn't know that,
but
and you
I
made the
had
claim.
no, but I had some in my chat, and I'm not saying that they're not nobodies. They're not anybody because I don't know them personally. They're Manchester United fans. They said that they're going to slap us. You guys are going
Okay,
to slap us.
okay.
They were confident. This is going to be the end of the run. I think even Cam was really confident as well. Like, we know that there's Manchester United fans that are quietly sitting there like, we think we're going to win because we're on this good run. And I like that because I'm also hoping that that transmits over to the team, which I do think that it might. It might because it's just little old Arsenal.
Stop. No one thinks you're little old Arsenal. You
They
lot, man.
do.
You lot and your like superiority complex is mad. Inferiority complex, sorry, it's crazy. A question for you, Jess. What are you saying about Martinez now?
I always thought Martinez was good.
He would have been him next to Saliba would have been colossal.
Well, we have a difference of opinion there.
He's not a left back.
And
He never would have been a left back ever.
well, seeing as we play a center back as a right back, I don't think you can say in our system that he wouldn't have played that position.
That's covered because of injuries.
It's really actually not.
So Tommy Asu, was he fit at the start of the season?
Well, Tommy Asu's fit now.
Was he
So
fit?
why didn't Ben White come out of there?
Because
And also,
you know too much
also-
about. Hang on. Well, no. Let me answer that question.
No.
No, you've asked me a question. No,
I-
we're not moving on, so I'll answer it. Like for me, the
I
reason
don't care what you think because
but you have to care what I think because you asked me a question.
I
Let me
actually
answer the
don't,
question. Let me answer the
because
question. The reason that
other
Ben White,
fans
the reason
telling
that
us
Ben,
what our system is.
I'm not telling you what your system is.
You are, because you're saying, well, because I don't believe this. I know what our system is, and this is they're doing PR, they're trying to get you, and this and that. Lisandro Martinez would have been playing left back.
He would have been, and that's fine. And I in our last debate about this, I conceded that. But what I also said to you is he would have become your main centre back because he's that good. Ben White, though, is starting over Tommy Asu because you've had the best start to a league campaign in 2 decades. You haven't had to rotate because it's been 1 game a week. Why would you change a winning, brilliant team? Tommy Asu is your main right back. The reason that you're not going to change it right now is because of the situation with winning. But Tommy Asu comes in this weekend because I've heard rumors Ben White might be injured. If Ben White's injured and Tommy Asu comes in and you go to another level as a team, Tommy Asu will stay in the team.
No, see, what we have to do is you can't take out all this context to fit your narrative. If Tommy Asu continues to start and Ben White is just out, then you can probably say it. But
no, hang on.
Ben White, because Ben White,
let me ask you a question.
Let me
ask you a question. So, if you think if Ben White misses say 4 games with injury, I'm just making a number up, and in those games, not barring rotation because you're going to rotate now because of Europa League starting, if you guys go to an even better level with Tommy Asu at right back, you just think the manager would go, yeah, but even though we're better now, we're just going to change it again. I think he might stick with the best winning team that he's got for the most important games. I think that's a fair thing to think and feel. But that's why, Ben White went to that right back position primarily because Tommy Asu was out injured. I think if Tommy Asu started the season fit, he was sensational for you at right back last year with the inverted fullback system that you use. I don't think he would have been out of your team.
Let me just interject here because you're still missing the point. You don't actually. Well, let me finish. You don't understand our system. The reason why we.
Sorry, I must be thick. I must be stupid. I don't understand football.
You don't understand our system, and it's just Tommy Asu. The reason why people were confused about is he a right back or is he a center back is because he's plays like a center back, but he plays inverted. That's why Ben White works. We play inverted. And really, Lisandro Martinez was being brought in because he can kind of play like Zinchenko. They play really well on the ball, and they can kind of play like midfielders on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So he would have played left back for us. It's not like a conspiracy where there's no benefit for Arsenal journalists to make it seem like we were going to play him at left back when we were actually going to play him as a center back.
And again, but you're going back to that point, and I've already said I'll concede that. So you don't need to go over that again. I concede that you were going to bring him as a left back, but I think he's that good a centre back. He would have become your main centre back next to Saliba. That's what I think he's that good at being a centre back. Over the course of time, that's where he would have ended up.
But that wasn't actually your original thing.
And it wasn't my original.
That's the first time that you've admitted it to me because we've had this. That isn't.
No, Jay, that isn't the first time. I literally said,
is.
no, hang on. On the stream that we did, I don't know how many weeks ago this was now. I think we were in the snow. We were
No.
in the studio in London. We did it. I
Yeah.
turned round to you and said that when we were arguing about who the best defender was out of Gabriel and Martinez, I conceded it then because for me, whether I'm right
Never
at the
did.
beginning or right at the end, is irrelevant to me. Lissandro Martinez is going to become one of the best centre backs in Europe. And whatever club bought him this year, or whether he stayed at Ajax, that is always going to become his predominant position. So I'm willing to concede that initial part of the argument because that isn't the important part. He is a centre back, and that's where he'll end up being and playing for the predominant amount of his career most of the time. And I think whether he joins Arsenal, United, Man City, or Liverpool, he would have probably not Liverpool because of Van Dijk, because he plays in the same position on the left-hand side, because he's the best in the world. But he would eventually end up as the main centre back at any of those clubs in that position because he's that good at it. The other point you've made, which is away from the original point, is I don't think Arteta would drop for no reason high-performing players in a winning team. Whether it's Tomiyasu, whether it's Ben White, whether it be if El Neni came in, he's not a party's level and had 2 or 3 good games. That's a little bit different. But Tomiyasu is a top class right back.
Yeah, but my whole
Top
point,
class.
my whole point of saying that is that you got away from the idea that like, because I don't think you like that I said that you didn't know our system. And my whole point of saying that was that this is how we play. Like, this is just how we play. And your original
But that isn't my,
point,
but that wasn't
but
that.
I know,
But
but
me not understanding your system is irrelevant to
no,
the point
because
I
when we
made. It's
no,
irrelevant.
it's not
It's
irrelevant. It's not
I'll
irrelevant
tell you why it's
because
irrelevant. But what is your system and style of play?
why can't I
Let me
finish my
answer
my
let me
no?
ask you this question.
All right, cool.
What is your system and style of play got to do with me believing that if Tomiyasu came back into your team and your team went to another level and a lot of it was to do with Tomiyasu, that your manager wouldn't drop him from your first team? What's that got to do with your style of play?
The entire point from the beginning, because you never actually conceded that. You're saying that you did, but you actually never did, is when we originally started arguing about it, you tried to tell me that he's never played left back in his life, so why would Arteta bring him there? He's never played left
I
back in
agree,
his life.
and that's fine. But I'm willing to consider that isn't my question.
Okay, but
But
that's
that
why I
isn't
said
answer
it.
my question.
That's okay.
What has Tomiyasu doing brilliantly in the team and not being
Because
and being
I
dropped got to
wanted
do with
to
your
go
style
back
of
to that
play?
point. I
But
wanted
I've
to go back to
conceded.
that
But I've
point.
conceded. But Jay, I
You
conceded.
conceded it because you knew you were wrong.
Fine, but that isn't. But that's fine. I'm willing to concede it because.
But you
hang on. I'm
Oh
willing.
my
I'm willing to
gosh.
concede you were right on something. I'm willing to concede you were right on it. So you've won that bit. But you saying I don't understand your system has nothing to do with Ben. You said what I said.
It doesn't matter. That's the point that I wanted to make.
And I conceded to it, but then you've gone off on another tangent. I was asking you about
You never
Tomiyasu.
conceded it the first time.
But I just did then.
Well, good. You
What are you
should have
talking
conceded it.
about?
No, you did. This is the first time that you've actually conceded it. You're saying that you conceded it.
I've
weeks
said it
ago,
on.
and you
I've
never
said
did.
it. I said it on multiple streams. I've
Oh,
said
you
it.
didn't say it to me.
I've said it. Well, then watch more of my content. I said it on.
No, it matters.
I've said it.
Because
I
you've
said
argued
it.
with me about it, and then you
Jay,
said that
Jay.
Arsenal were trying to fake the fans into believing that we were just bringing him as a
okay. So listen
but
to.
I've looked at
Hang
his
on a minute,
comps,
Jay.
and he's never played
Let
left back
me
in
let me
his
go
life.
back to this again. I said, and that's true. I believe what I said then. I don't believe he's been scouted as a left back. He performed poorly as a left back. He didn't do very well as a DM. So when people speak about his versatility, when you research the player, Lissandro Martinez as a left back and a DM was highly unsuccessful in his career. When he became a centre back, he became a colossal and a powerhouse. I still believe that, which is why I said in my original argument, the first time I said it, whatever Arteta's bringing him in for, I believe that he ended up as a centre back, and I believe he was being looked at as a centre back. What I then changed my point when I'm speaking to Arsenal fans. I did it on a stream with you when we argued who was better between him and Gabriel. And if you don't remember it, again, I'll concede and say I didn't. But on multiple streams, I have said, and my Football Terrace community have seen it, that irrespective of whether he came in to be a left back or not, he's not good at that role. And he's so good at centre back, he would have eventually become it. So we can park that. And I'm willing, because I'm a grown man, to say I'm wrong about that. But let's move to the actual point that I made about you having Ben White at right back. He has stayed in the team because you and your team have been brilliant. If he'd have done a bad job in his opening 5 games and you lost 3 of them, he wouldn't have stayed in the team because he's Ben White and cost 50 million. Tomiyasu had already been back in. Equally, if you go to another level because of him, you'll change it. If Odegaard misses 3 games.
Nobody disagrees with that.
Well, you did. You said that won't happen. And you
No,
said you don't understand our system, Terry. You literally said that.
don't, but you
But
didn't.
you said that Ben
The
White,
whole point.
you said Ben White would walk back into the team irrespective of how well you did if Tomiyasu came in, and your rationale was, Terry, you don't understand Arsenal and our
Well,
system
no,
and our style of
but
play. And that's
also,
all I wanted to ask
okay,
you about.
but
Mad.
also no, but
Mental.
no, it's
Mental.
It's not mental because Ben White is also the first name on the team sheet. So I think regardless of what Tomiyasu does, he'll probably start. But my whole point of bringing up Ben White at right back was that he's a center back playing right back. So it's just not that big of a deal that Lisandro Martinez is a center back that probably would have played left back. You conceded that, fair enough. But I know your overarching point was he's better than Gabriel.
He's
And he
better
would
than
have slotted in,
Gabriel.
and
He is
and
better
that's
than
fine.
Gabriel. And he's
I'm
shown that
no,
already
but
in early days in the Premier
I'm not
League.
arguing with you about that. I know
Okay.
that that was your main point. I don't care. Like,
But
that's fine. And they
hang
asked
on a minute.
me,
But how
and they
about
asked me
about
what I think about Lisandro Martinez.
how
I think
about
he's a really, really good player. I wanted him at Arsenal.
But the point is, though, but you saying you don't care about the overarching point is ridiculous, because my overarching point in the original debate we had was that Martinez is and will prove to be a better centre back than Gabriel.
But I wanted to go back to the original point because
why does that matter, though? Why does that matter?
Because it matters to me.
But why, though?
It matters to me.
Why,
because
though? Can you explain why?
If you would just stop talking for like 5 seconds, you would. Like,
explain why it's important then. Go for it.
It's important to me because I don't remember you ever conceding that point
when
I originally said, but
on multiple streams. I definitely did.
You didn't to me.
Fair enough. Then I apologize that you didn't watch that stream, or I didn't say it to your face, because I stream 3 times a day, 7 days a week. So I apologize. But what I said in the beginning of this conversation, you can go back and listen to it, is I've already conceded that point and willing to do it again now. And what you then do is ignore my actual point, which is that he is better than Gabriel, and I stand by that. Viewers, make sure you're smashing like buttons. We're going to go to some of your super chats that are coming through now on the show. First one says, Terry, you talk like Richarlison can't improve. Of course he can improve. I'm just not sold on him as a player, my friend. See, this is the big thing. Arsenal still letting goals, though. So they're winning. Though they're winning, I hear you, they do concede a few goals, but they've mainly been mistakes, to be fair. Malacia Delo had Salah and Diaz in their pockets. Who is Saka and Jesus? Arsenal will get humbled on Sunday. I disagree with that myself, but there we go. Jess, I like you better when Arsenal are losing. I know for sure the old Jess is going to be back next week.
Well, if we lose a game, we're not technically losing, but fair enough.
Martinez or Saliba, I'll take the midget 100%. Look, I'm just going to be really biased. I wouldn't swap my new centre back for anybody, but I think Saliba's sensational.
And I wouldn't swap any of mine for anybody else either.
Your manager would. That's why I tried to buy our guy.
It doesn't matter.
Let's see how Arsenal play in front of a hostile crowd, and on top of that, if they attack us, they are going to get ripped with all the space in behind, is what Joshua believes. I don't know. I'm not too sure. It depends, really. I feel like Arsenal at times in the game, I think it's going to be one of those games that ebb and flows. There'll be times where Arsenal will the main pressure, then they'll absorb and try and spring. I think if one team just plays one particular way for 90 minutes,
it is not up to us to attack. Side. You guys are at home.
That doesn't matter in modern day game. You play to your strength.
No,
it doesn't matter, does it? Because we didn't do that again. We didn't attack Liverpool. We were just. So why did we weren't attacking against Liverpool?
Because I was talking and then you just cut me off like immediately. Like,
but why do okay?
Because it does matter.
So hang on a minute. Why does it matter that
it matters? So why do Man? We're away from home,
right?
So we don't have to necessarily like come out and you guys at your crowd is going to want you guys to attack us, so we can actually sit in a little bit more than maybe you guys.
But based on what?
Based on the fact that when you're in front of your crowd, you don't think that holds anyone.
Again, I've watched Man United for Arsenal my whole life, and there were very few times when Man United played Arsenal, even when you were at your absolute best, and so were we, where we were the main aggressor in a team. We've predominantly beaten you in my lifetime playing a counter-attack brand of football, home and away. So Man United fans, for these big clashes, if we have to absorb and counter, or press at times and absorb at times like we did against Liverpool to beat you, the crowd don't care. This weird notion that Man United fans the fans at Old Trafford are only going to accept Man United being on the front foot, dominating the ball, being the main aggressor in the game. I know for a fact that not all of my Man United fans will agree, but the vast majority just want to see us defend well press at the right times, and beat you. Whether that's counter-attack or being the
Right.
main aggressor, the fans don't give a shit.
Okay.
Facts.
All right. No, that's your reality. Like, I do think it
M-
matters.
My my
And
re-
we
sorry.
also, away from home, will sometimes do that and sit in. So I don't imagine we're gonna come out and like really try to go at you guys because we know you guys are good on the counter. We might just sit in a little bit and make you guys have to break us down. Because
Maybe,
that's not where
yeah,
you
maybe you
guys do
will.
the best,
Maybe
so
you will. Maybe you will decide to be pragmatic and park the bus and absorb the pressure because we can't break you down. And I totally understand that. And now, if you're just sitting back and not attacking, of course there'll be an expectation from the crowd for you to attack. But if you guys come out a million miles an hour and putting us under pressure, the fans are going to want us to absorb that and spring on the counter. And how do I know that? One, I've spoken to hundreds of Man United fans in my life. I was a season ticket holder for many years and have sat in the ground for tough Arsenal, tough Chelsea, tough City, tough Liverpool games and felt the mood. So I have a first-hand understanding and experience of what the fans want and need. What we don't like, and ironically, Jose Mourinho suffered with this at United. We didn't mind sitting in against teams that played better football than us.
okay.
It was when we counter-attack with only one or two people and there was no commitment to the counter-attack. So if we
Mhm.
counter-attack against you and it's just Rashford and Sancho sprinting up the pitch and everyone else sits back, there'll be anger. But if we counter-attack with Sancho, Bruno, a couple of midfielders, the fullbacks bombing on in that counter-attack, there'll be happiness. How do we know? Fergie's football was famed for its counter-attacking ability, especially against you guys. So Man United fans won't cry about that. Some guys online will, but they're the mushrooms. They moan about everything in my view.
Okay.
Well, we did them super chats there. Is Terry ever wrong? No, very rarely, my friend. Well, I'll say this. Of course, I'm wrong about things, and I admit that I'm wrong, but it's about having... Imagine if I didn't have opinions and just agree with everything everybody said. I'd be a pretty shit content creator, wouldn't I? It would be very, very weird. But there we go. 3-1 to 3-1 United. Gonna smash Arsenal, and both fan bases will wake the hell up. It's a battle for 6th and 7th end of the day, is what Ty's got to say. No, Jess, we don't do that. This is literally everything Arteta is against, is what's being said there. United are so arrogant. It's mad, is what the Shane's got to say.
Mhm.
As a Man United fan, I see Arsenal playing excellent game against us 2-2, is what Lucky Singh has got to say. Damn, Jess, top of the league, undefeated, confident of winning, talking about sitting back against United. Is what DHL has got to say. Still, we might lose to... Of course, listen, I make Arsenal favourite for this game, Cody, as I've said all along.
Mhm.
And I'm off. I'm sorry, and I'm old enough to have seen games from then and now. We always played like that against Arsenal. Many ex United players mentioned it too. Yeah, no, I hear that. Mansplaining. Cheers, Sherrick. But yeah, look, I'm intrigued about the game. It's gonna be an intriguing one indeed. See how it goes. Are you concerned about seeing Anthony play, or are you not too worried about him making his debut against Arsenal?
No, I expect him to play some sort of part, but am I worried? Not so much, but I think he will make a debut at some point if the game is going well for United. So yeah, we'll see.
And do you think Odegaard can handle Casemiro?
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. Like, I think he'll be fine. He'll find his spaces, and Casemiro will be a difficult, opposition. But as we saw against Leicester, like he's not 100% up to speed yet. So I think we'll be all right. And we have more than one player to worry about. I don't think you just stop Odegaard and you just stop Arsenal. Like we have more players out there that can hurt you. So yeah.
There we go. Terry's lab. Where's that gone? I wanted to put that comment up. It made me laugh. Terry's level of arrogance is hilarious to me. Well, I've not been sitting here telling people they don't understand football.
I said you don't understand our system
No, I don't.
and the way
I,
that we
I know
play. I
nothing
didn't
about
say
Arsenal.
football.
Well,
So
if you understand football, and I watch every Arsenal game, I understand Arsenal.
yeah, well, if you understood, then you like originally you would have been able to see what we were trying to do and that it wasn't some conspiracy theory like that we were gonna play him at left back.
Yeah,
But
listen. It is what it is. I was asking a question. He played like 4 games there and was crap. I don't understand how they thought he could play there. I just want to know when they scouted him. That's what I was asking for. She is talking about their pressure, but wants to sit back, is what GB's got to say.
I didn't say sit back. I said that we may just contain a little bit.
That's sitting back.
Containing and sitting back is not the same thing.
What?
So sitting back in a deep block and then or containing your shape and not you don't have to sit back and you can contain at the it's like sitting back in a low block and just letting you guys have all the possession and let you guys play around us is different than maintaining your shape and then springing at the right moment and pressuring you at the right moment.
I agree, which is exactly what I just said to you about Man United. It depends on what you're doing in the game will reflect on what we do. Man United fans are very happy to sit back and contain and then counter-attack in numbers. What we're not happy to do is just sit back and every time we win the ball, boot it up the other end of the pitch. Again, I would say GB, when he's talking about sitting back, is talking about sitting back and bursting into the counter-attack. But again, I suppose different turn of phrase there. I would read sitting back as trying to do that as an example. But no, I do get you there. But good point there, GB. And of course, Jess, thanks to shine a light on the truth in Jess's face. She's turning into the new Ty / Julian. I think she's trying to leave the TFT for Arsenal media, is what Coach Dave has got to say. Listen, Jess is entitled to her opinions. Andy Goldstein said 3-0. Yeah, but listen, why are you guys taking Andy Goldstein seriously? You know what Andy Goldstein's job is to do.
Oh, that's like what, four fans? You find 5 more. Like
I said lots. If you can find me 20, I'll give you 100 grand cash.
I'm sure there's at least
20 content creators that have said they're going to smash them. I'll give you 100 grand cash.
Just Manchester United fans.
100 grand.
Content creator.
Because you said Man United fans.
Yeah, and you're saying content creators.
Yeah, because I'm not talking, no disrespect, I'm not talking about somebody called Josh_United who we have no idea who he is writing some nonsense online. I'm talking about proper people.
Oh, so their opinions don't matter then?
Because we don't know who they are.
It doesn't matter.
Of course. Well, they do, because I could set up an Arsenal account now and say we're going to win 5-0 at the weekend. It doesn't mean it's an Arsenal fan.
Well, I'm sure that we can find some legitimate fans, like,
I'm just teasing you. Listen, viewers, it's a great show. I really appreciate you all appreciate you all tuning in and having your say. Make sure you're smashing the like buttons before you leave. It's going to be a big weekend of football. Merseyside derby, all of the top 6 playing. Of course, the weekend ends with the big clash between Manchester United and Arsenal. Make sure you smash the like buttons. Make sure you subscribe to the Football Terrace and all that jazz. Click the bell notification as well. Thank you to everyone, by the way, that signed up to NordVPN yesterday. Lots of people using the QR codes and signing up and supporting us in that area too, which is great. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.